subscribe.
Go ahead, Chief.
Good morning. My name is Assistant Chief Scott Dingee with the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office. Speaking to you this morning in reference to an officer-involved shooting that we're currently investigating. The incident began last night, which was Wednesday, the 7th of September, at approximately 22:47, which is 10:47 p.m. We got a 911 call in reference to gunshots in the area of the intersection of McConaughey Streets and Whitner Streets. Two officers were dispatched, an Officer M.M. Green and an Officer J.A. Ledyard. They responded to the area. They did not find anyone that was injured immediately. So they began to search the area for any witnesses or potential victims. While in the area, in the 1700 block of Tyler Street, which is about a block or so away, they encountered a black male and a black female in front of a house. They stopped and spoke to those individuals, who then said that they had heard gunfire but didn't know any more information about that. So the officers, again, were not able to find any kind of victims in the area, so they left the area. At approximately 11:42, so about an hour later, we received another 911 call in reference to a black male with a black shirt on a bicycle who was firing into a gray house at the corner of Whitner and McConaughey Streets. 1 minute later, officers M.M. Green and Ledyard were dispatched again to the area. Approximately 2 minutes after that, so about 11:45, Officer Green arrived on McConaughey Street at the intersection. He observed a black male with a black shirt on a bike in the area, which was in the 1500 block of McConaughey Street, about a half block from the intersection. So he drove up to that individual, got out of his car, and ordered that individual off the bicycle. The individual got off the bicycle and then threw the bike at the officer. The subject then began to run in a southbound direction through a backyard, behind an apartment building right there. The officer chased the individual. While the individual was running, the subject was wearing a backpack. He reached into his backpack as he was running, retrieved an object, and fired, which turned out to be a handgun. It fired one time at the officer. Fortunately, the officer was not struck. The officer then returned fire with his departmentally issued handgun 5 times. At this time, we do not believe that the subject was struck either. He continued to run southbound, jumped over a fence, and then fled the area. At this time, we have not located that subject, but that investigation is ongoing. We have recovered a handgun at the scene that we believe to be the one that was used that was fired at the officer, and so we're still investigating that as well. We did also locate a gray house at the corner of Whitner and McConaughey Streets, which has obvious signs of gunfire and physical evidence associated with that outside that indicates this is the house that was shot. We have developed further suspect information in reference to that case. We have aggravated battery unit detectives that are out actively investigating that at the moment. As part of that investigation, that has led us to a house on 7th Street, where we are currently in the process of conducting an investigation that at some point, very soon, will possibly lead to a SWAT call out. So we're working that as well. We do not know if the subject that fired at Officer Green is in that house or these are different suspects, so we're still working on that. But we're going forward from there. Can I answer any questions?
Russell Colburn with Action News Jax. That initial gray house that was fired into, I believe, is that believed to be occupied?
No, we did a safety check of that house. There was no one currently in the house. It is occupied as if someone is living there. But however, fortunately, that we know of, nobody was in the house at the time of the shooting. We're attempting to make contact with the owner to determine exactly who was there and who lived there. Nobody was hit there.
Chief, this is Shelby with First Coast News. Can you tell us how long this officer has been with the force and if he's ever had officer-involved shootings previously?
Sure, he's been with the JSO for 2 years now, and he has not had any previous incidents.
Assistant Chief Dingee, this is Bakari with News4JAX. What is the threat to the public right now? We have a couple things going on. One, this guy's still out there. 2, possible SWAT situation going on. What do people need to be worried about?
I don't think that anybody in this particular area has anything to worry about. We have quite a few officers out here. We do have a large crime scene that is very secure at the moment. The house that might end up being where the SWAT call out is extremely secure. There is no one going in and out of that house. We obviously would like any kind of help that anybody from the public would have, any kind of information they can provide, either through 911 or Crime Stoppers, if they want to remain anonymous, to give us information about what they know. But at this time, we don't feel like there's any outstanding danger to the immediate residents.
Why are we hesitant on calling the SWAT team out here? What are we waiting for?
Well, we have to confer with the state attorney, review what investigative information we have, obtain a search warrant, that kind of thing. So we're in the process of doing that. I believe we will get to that point, but it just hasn't been officially done.
Any previous dealings, do you believe, with this suspect?
The suspect that Officer Green fired at Officer Green was the same individual, one of the two that he had seen over on Tyler Street approximately an hour earlier. Other than that, we don't know of any other interaction that they had.
So you found a handgun. Do you believe that this individual still has any weapons left? I mean, is it still an active shooting scene?
It's very much an active shooting scene. Unfortunately, the scene that we're working for the officer-involved shooting is very close to the house. That was probably going to be our SWAT call-out. So obviously that's a very controlled area that we had to pull our evidence technicians or crime scene detectives out of. So yes, it is still being worked, and it's going to be worked for some time. It's always possible that the subject has additional guns. We do have the one gun, but you never know how many guns he may have had.
Have any
Can you
witnesses
talk about the
reported
foot
seeing that
chase
suspect?
and
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Have any witnesses reported seeing that suspect maybe in a yard across the street?
Well, yeah, I don't want to talk about any witnesses. That's still active.
can you talk about the foot chase and what the officer did right?
The officer, again, this is all early information, and this is going to be a long process, both from a criminal standpoint and then as an administrative review. So I don't want to get too far into it as far as what he did right or wrong, because we're just not to that point to make that determination.
Why was he by himself?
He did have a backup officer that was assigned to him. He was nearby within a minute. He had come across this subject before they could get together. So he did have backup coming.
Did he try to use a taser first?
Not that I'm aware of. No.
In the initial call out to the shooting in the house, you said the suspect was not alone then, he was with one other person?
Information we've developed since being at the scene indicates there may have been two suspects involved in that scene, in that initial shooting. But again, this is very active and very scene.
And no word on who those people are?
Again, that's all part of the active ongoing investigation. I don't want to get into the details of that.
What about people who live around the area? Are they being evacuated from their homes?
As far as the residents around, that'll be determined if and when we're going to make it a SWAT call out. The area that is where we're at, where the house is very secure. So I don't, at this point, don't need to evacuate any people in that immediate area or anywhere near where we are.
The two people in the initial call shooting into the house, are those the people believed to maybe be holding these people up in a home, the same group?
Again, we don't know if we have two completely separate incidents as far as who's involved, so all that's still unknown.
And when canvassing the area, what are people saying, and what do you need them to say in terms of information to catch this guy?
Again, we've made contact with numerous people in the neighborhood who have been very helpful. I don't want to get into specifics of what they said, but certainly if anybody else has any information, we encourage them to call to the sheriff's office or Crime Stoppers to provide that information.
Thank you, Chief.
You said no previous incidents. How old is this officer?
I don't know his age offhand, but he's been with the department. He is older. He's not a brand new
veteran.
Yeah, he's been with us 2 years, but I know he has over 20 years of military experience as well. So he's not a younger officer.
And where is he now?
He is off now.
Any other questions?
He just fired one shot, correct?
No,
5.
Oh, he fired 5 shots.
Correct.
Okay.
He fired 5.
Okay, gotcha.
All right.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.